All right, so for our first step with the tees, what we kind of do is just put your finger right there to kind of flush up the tee to the edge of the board, and then just kind of work it down. And what we're doing is just, cutting this tee to length for the particular board, which I've already cut it. You want to overhang it just a tad bit. That way you know you have enough room to get to the edge of the board. And I always make if you could zoom in right through here, I always just make a little line with my knife right there where I know the end of the board is. That way, whenever we come to do our notches, you can see where your end of your board is going to be, and you just notch it. That's and you do that on both ends. And generally we try to do roughly 3/4 of an inch for the notch. That leaves enough room for any of the other tees on the edges or yellows to where they're not laying on top of each other. So that is our first step. And then the best place to put the glue is going to be about midway on the bottom, and just kind of rest on the top of this tee and just run you a nice little bead down this tee. And this is also what we do for the yellows and the L's as well. So after you run that bead, then you'll just flip your tee over and make sure you get a little bit of glue on your end, and then just run a bead right near the top of that tee all the way down. I'm trying to go slower so the video catches it. And then just a little glue on that end as well. And now putting on these tees, it's a lot of personal preference. Some people like to start from the left and work their way to the right. Personally, I like to start at the right. So I will kind of just let my tee drop. And then I like to lick my finger. I think I can feel if it's flush better that way. And what you'll do is just flush that up right there. Now the key is just getting the board into the corner of this tee where it's flush right there on the edge and the bottom. And then you just work it in, and I like to follow with my backhand just to make sure it's flush right there on the edge, because if it's sticking out any, that'll cause the boards to separate at that point. And then just work it straight down. And just be very conscious to make sure the board is, sitting tight in that corner of the tee. And there's your tee. Then what we do is any spots of the tee on top that looks like it's, not all the way glued to the board, and give it a little spray. And just, that one was fine, but some will be pulling away farther. You can drop a little dot of glue in there and push it up, but that's pretty much the gist of it. I always like to give a little bitty spray towards the bottom just to help that dry faster right there. And I always put a little squirt right there where that excess glue is and make sure that's pressed in good. And then after that, your next step, always with these bottom tees, we 45-degree angle on these edges right here. So Don't matter how you do it, but pretty much like that. And we do that on both ends. Well, on this one first, you're gonna take your knife, put your thumb right there, or however you want to. Just make sure it's, getting flush to the edge of the board. Right there. And then your 45.